Hello and welcome to another video with me, Jo from J.H.Leather. In this video I'll be showing you how to make a half check collar. For this tutorial you will need a strip of bridle back, some leather looping, a buckle and a circle chain. You can have either D-rings or circle rings on this, either way it's the same process of making. So first of all we're going to find the best end on our strip of leather. Once you've found the best end, we're now going to just square this and cut this straight. And then we're going to nick the corners. We're now going to mark for the turn, so we want to do a 2-inch turn here, so we're going to mark 2 inches for where the crew goes and just mark across with our set square, and then flip over to the flesh side and mark 4 inches where the end of our turn will finish. So we're going to just roughly hold this in shape to mark where our smallest or our largest hole will be, and just mark with your thumb where you want that to be. Now we're going to have a loop on this, and you just need to make sure that you can get everything down to and fit with the loop in place, if that all makes sense. So once you're happy, just mark with your thumb, and then you want to mark further 4 points from there, so you have 5 holes in total. And now once you've done that, we're just going to edge roughly. We're going to mark the overall length a bit later on, so we're just going to edge number 1 around the grain side, to just past the holes that we have marked on, and then on the flesh side we're going to do again the same, and we're going to avoid edging underneath where our turn will be. Okay, now once you do that, we're going to head over to the staining area, and we're going to stain and crease the collar just in this area that we have just edged. Okay, now once you've done your staining and creasing, we're going to punch our crew hole. So you want to set your dividers so you can do some tram lines the size of the width of your crew. And then once you're happy with these, you want to punch your crew all the way through. And once you've done that, you want to get your number 6 edge tool and just edge around the back of that crew hole. Okay, so we're also going to punch our holes. I know we don't normally do this at the end, but what you want to do is just level up with your dividers and mark the centre of the strap for each of these holes, and then punch your 5 holes. Now the reason we're doing this now is because we're going to basically try and make this turn loosely so we can get the overall length for the collar that we are making. So once you've done that and you've punched all your holes, you want to just pop your buckle on. Now it's the buckle and the turn will both be facing the flesh side of the leather, if that makes sense, because it's going to be hidden underneath the turn that will go around one of the D-rings on our circle chain. So what you should have done was put the chain on first, so just make sure you put your your chain on, and so this collar is going to be, it's like a martingale. If you've seen or you've made a martingale for a horse before, the fitting on this end is similar to how you would make one of those. So pop your buckle on and put it on your middle hole with your chain on, and then pop your other end of the leather through the other D-ring or ring, and then we're going to measure how big we want the collar to be. We want the inside of the collar to be. So basically you want to put like a clip, like a bulldog, on the one end just to hold that turn down to get a better idea on the size of it, and just fold your leather over, and then with your tape measure the inside until you are happy you've got the right size. And this is a bit of an awkward way of measuring it. Another way would be to fit your chain onto that end of your the turn end, buckle turn end of the collar that we've made, measure it out flat with the chain to the size that you need, plus a little bit to take into account the turn and the buckle. I hope that makes sense. That would have been the easier way to have measured this, rather than fiddling around with the inside. But anyway, once you are happy you've got the right size, you want to just mark the centre of that turn with your thumbnail, and then add a further 2.5 inches to this. Cut flush with your set square, and then we're going to put an egg point on this end as well. You don't need to if you don't want to put an egg turn an egg point on this end. It just, for me, it finishes the collar and makes it look a bit more aesthetically pleasing, I guess. So once you've got your turn, you can then just double check and make sure you've got the right size. So I do find these collars a bit harder to measure up than the normal collars, which is why I'm spending so much time measuring this one, just to make sure I have it right. And then once you are happy, what we're going to do is just mark where that turn finishes on the other end of our collar, and using our nail or our roundel, we're just going to draw around the end of that turn and then edge anywhere else that needs edging before heading over to stain and crease this side of the collar. So I didn't film the staining and creasing of this end, it's just the same as what we normally do. And so once you have got your whole collar stained and creased, we are going to mark for stitching. So pop your collar in, your buckle in your buckle turn, and mark with your fingers and thumbnails where you want your stitching to go. And then even this up with your set square and set your dividers to your stitching width, and just mark between these two spots. And then using your number 7 stitch marker, you just want to stitch mark these 2 lines. And then once you've done that, you can now skive this turn down to half thickness. And make sure you have a nice sharp knife, not like me. The sharper your knife is, the easier it is to do your skiving. So once you've done that, you can now pop this turn together. So you want to get your looping and mark out for a fixed loop, and then tack everything into place. And now once you've done that, we are going to mark out and stitch mark the other turn on our collar. So what you want to do is pop that circle chain into your turn and mark with your dividers at their stitch marking width just around the turn end, and then fold it all into place and pop an awl all the way through so you get your center point, and then mark where you want your round bit of that turn to finish or start, depending on how you see it, and where you want the stitching to finish at the end where your D-ring will be. Once you're happy with that, use your dividers to draw the lines between the two spots that we have made, and then set them to half thickness. And then using a round object, you just want to complete your egg shape here. And then again, stitch mark with your number 7 stitch marker. Once we've done that, we're now going to mark out for our running loop. So you want to wrap your looping all the way around your collar and mark it where it meets the crease on the other side. Cut this off flush and nick all the corners, and then wrap it around again and mark where the end meets roughly on the collar so you can stitch mark, and then stitch mark all both ends and both sides all the way through. Now I have got another video which I will link at the end of the video and in this little bubble here about looping. It will just give you a better idea as to what I'm doing here if you haven't made any loops before. And so once you've done that, you want to skive the buckle turn with your head knife, and then cut off any fluffy bits that there may be. And then we're going to complete our running loop. So you want to skive both of these ends down to half thickness, and then take them over and stain these ends. And once you've done that, we're going to single hand stitch this loop together. So you want a single bit of thread with a knot at the end, and then you can just quickly pre-awl your holes with your needle and then stitch your loop together. Like I said, there will be a link at the end of the video for my loop making video in case you are new to leatherwork and you've not made some before, or you want just a little refresher. The camera wasn't in the best place for this, unfortunately, so I would head over to that video if you are unsure on how to make a running loop. So once you finish stitching, you just want to make sure you do a back stitch on your loop and then tie the thread off on the stitches. And then you want to pop this on your loop stick to stretch it to make sure you can fit 2 layers of leather through. And then once you're happy you've got it to a nice spot on your loop stick, you can just tap it with a hammer to make it nice and square. And then we're going to set this to one side, and we will do our finishing touches to the loop once we have stitched our buckle turn, which we will be stitching now. So you want to double hand stitch this, and as always we're going to start with a 1 with one back stitch and a stitch over the edge of the leather. And then you can continue stitching the turn as normal, and then when you get to the end you can either do your 1.5 back stitches and start a new thread for the other side, or you can do a back stitch where you come through in the middle of the 2 layers of leather and then push these through to the other side and continue stitching with the same thread. And when you get close to your buckle, you want to just pre-all the last 3 or 4 holes just to make it easier to stitch your loop in place. And then you pop your loop in and continue stitching. And then once you stitch your turn, we're now going to put the loop stick in the loop here, and we're going to actually do our finishing touches on this end of the collar now. So we can put this end of the collar together on the circle chain and then stitch our second turn. So again, I didn't film this part of the finishing process. It's just the same as what we normally do. We're just going to restain and recrease our turn and loop areas. And once you've done that, you want to put your running loop on and then your circle chain through and put your other end through both of the loops and then do the buckle up. So your collar should look a little bit like this at the moment, and then we're just going to pop our second turn through and then just tack this in place. So again, unfortunately, the camera wasn't in an ideal location here, but I'm just putting the collar just over the corner of my cutting bench there, just to make it a bit easier to get that tack in. And then once you're happy with everything's in place, we're going to double hand stitch the second turn on our collar. And then when you get to the end of this turn, you can either do a 1.5 or, like I do, a 2.5 stitch back stitch, just to secure the threads in place, and then you can cut these off. And once we've done that, we're just going to do the finishing touches on this end of the collar. I've already did my finishing touches to the original buckle turn end, so I'm just restaining, recreasing this end of the collar that I didn't do originally. And so hopefully your finished collar looks a little bit like this one. If you have any issues or you have any questions that you want answered, please leave a comment down below or email me on info@jhleather.co.uk. Anyway, that is the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe for more videos and tutorials. Also, if you want to help support the channel, we have a page over at patreon.com/JHLeather where you can sponsor us from as little as $1 a month, and it all helps in helping me make videos and better content for you guys to watch. Thank you.